And that started in 1954. The decline of the West Side starts with Bradbur's Board of Education, and it just continues to disintegrate. It just continues to decline until the present hour. A few more things, then we're going to do a little simple exercise. So then what happens is this decline, this precipitous decline, it just continues and continues and continues. And it's not like no one really paid attention to the hemorrhage that was taking place. But it was manifesting itself in really terrible social pathology, right, among the people that were left behind. And that pathology really starts to increase in the mid-60s and early 70s. And then by the 80s and 90s, and I'll talk about what happened then, it just got totally out of control, all right? So now we're going to do a little simple exercise. I just got an idea with the marvels of technology. How many of you are at a table with a cell phone? Somebody at your table got a cell phone. All right, here's what I want you to do. Because they don't have the technology set up, I was going to show it here, but they don't have the sound to make it happen. I just thought, I got an idea. Go to your phone and just Google or whatever your search engine is, and just put in the name, just put in PastorWatts.com. PastorWatts, PastorWatts.com. And it should take you, and you should see something that says PastorWatts.com, another cucumber website, something crazy that my friend put out there. PastorWatts.com. You find it? So click on PastorWatts.com and see what comes up. Does it pull something up? All right. So click on, are you at my website? You see my handsome face? All right, all right. Is my head shining? Because I buffed it that day they took that picture. All right, so now as you hit enter, and it's going to take you to a menu. And you have to turn your phone long ways to access the menu. And then go under the menu heading that says Topics, T-O-P-I-C-S. Everybody see it? Go into Topics. And then scroll down Topics until you get the word T for triangle. All right, everybody see that? So when you click on triangle, it should take you to another place, and it's going to say Triangle District Archival Footage. Everybody see that? All right, so what we're going to do at the same time, we're going to click on it. And I want you to watch a little bit of this, because this is going to help nail down what happened to the west side of Charleston, what happened to black people in Charleston, because this is probably the most significant, most profound, unfair, unjust, unnecessary dismantling of the largest African-American community in the history of the state of West Virginia that took place in the late 60s and early 70s. So if everybody got it right now, just click on archival footage. It's going to take you to a piece of archival footage that a friend of mine found at the West Virginia Cultural Center. And we won't watch the whole 12 minutes. We'll watch enough of it. It's going to set the stage for me to bring us to the 21st century, all right? If you don't have a phone, share with someone else's phone, because I just want you all to kind of watch a bit of the archival footage, and I'm going to link that to the west side. Let's kind of come back right now. Again, I would strongly encourage you to watch that entire video, and I'm going to send some other links to some things to Dr. Andrus, and so that she can have it passed on to you, because I think it'll really help you guys understand the west side of Charleston. So what I share with you there is what happened in the mid-1960s when the city of Charleston and the Charleston Urban Renewal Authority, in partnership with the West Virginia State Roads and the United States Department of Highways, they decided to bring the interstate highway directly through the most populated African-American community in the state of West Virginia. It's called the Downtown Triangle District. The reason it had the name Triangle, for those of you who are familiar with downtown, Mr. Livy will understand what I'm talking about. You go down downtown Charleston, if you were to walk from the boulevard on Capitol Street and walk north on Capitol Street, walked all the way down to Washington Street, and stood there at Washington Street, and then went straight from Washington Street and Capitol all the way to the interstate, cross the railroad tracks to the interstate, and then hang a left and go west all the way to the Elk River, and then come back on a 45-degree angle to where you were on Capitol Street. It's a geometrical triangle, large area. Civic Center, all of that is encompassed in that. The downtown Superblock, the Town Center Mall, the water company, all the development downtown, that was populated by predominantly black people from 1900 up until the 1960s. Like almost every urban city, they carved out a place where black people could live. They would carve that place out, they would isolate them in that place, and they'd be restricted to living in that place. And Charleston was no different from every other urban city in the United States of America. And like many other urban cities, once the elite economic power brokers decided we want the city back for economic purposes, the federal government had encouraged, and most states had passed laws to require urban renewal to take place. And many African Americans called it Negro removal. Is another way, basically, to gentrify, that's a good word, is another way to ethnic cleanse blacks from the core of the inner city. And that's what Charleston did. And they put 3 projects together to justify it. The Western Water Company decided to build a water treatment plant downtown in Charleston. The Department of Highways decided to run the interstate through the black community, even though all the experts saying that hasn't worked in other places. It's destroyed neighborhoods. It's broken down social cohesion. The federal government was funding a black advocacy group here to fight them. On the other hand, the federal government was providing all the money to the state of West Virginia to demolish all the houses. You need to look at that whole footage. It's the greatest effort of resistance that black people have ever put up in the state of West Virginia. They had not only did they have sit-ins, and they created a tent city on the water company parking lot before Martin Luther King, for his colleagues, attempted to have a march on Washington with the Poor People's Campaign in '68. And they occupied the land. You see them dragging some of them off the jail. They organized into these groups of upper middle class, lower middle class, the greatest organization of black people ever came together because blacks owned the businesses in the triangle. They went all the way to the highest circuit court of appeals in the United States of America, appealing the case, and they should have been granted relief. But they appealed to the United States Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court refused to hear the case. So they literally demolished an entire neighborhood. Some churches were torn down and had to be relocated. All the people were moved. As a matter of fact, they said there cannot be any residential housing downtown. So everything was torn. It destroyed the most socially, culturally, spiritually, economically viable neighborhood in the state of West Virginia. And it caused the decline of the west side of Charleston to go into steroids. Because many of the low-income people who live downtown, they were renters, they didn't own their homes. Therefore, they did not get relocation money to buy properties in other places. And they were shoved into the west side of Charleston. Large single-family houses were broken up into apartments, 3 and 4 apartment units, ignoring the building codes and so forth. Many of them were shoved into the public housing. A lot of people don't realize the public housing was originally built, wasn't built for black people. As a matter of fact, black people couldn't live in public housing initially. It was built for working whites. And as they worked their way out of public housing, then blacks were allowed to move into public housing. And so all this public housing on the west side of Charleston, the highest concentration of public housing in the state of West Virginia is here. Orchard Manor, which used to be a slave plantation, were those apple orchards. At one time, 1,500 people lived in this one little urban plantation. Little Page, not far from that. And so that started to decline. It started to concentrate poverty in one neighborhood. And many of the viable African-American businesses, they just couldn't survive desegregation.